Before we turn the calendar to 2024, let's take a look back at a few of the biggest stories in Pittsburgh over the last year. From multiple police officers killed in the line of duty, to a fiery derailment, and the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting trial, it's been a year full of major headlines.
The small and quiet community of Brackenridge became a massive crime scene just one day after the calendar turned to 2023. Chief Justin McIntyre was ambushed, shot, and killed in the line of duty, with the suspect he was chasing later killed in another shootout with officers in Homewood. Following in his father's footsteps, McIntyre served his community for decades as a patrolman before becoming chief.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of...
Today we're here to celebrate the life of Chief Justin McIntyre.
Hundreds of law enforcement officers descended on New Kensington to mourn McIntyre as Mount St. Peter Church was filled to capacity and fellow officers gave eulogies to remember the fallen hero.
That same night, the sports world went silent in shock as one of Pittsburgh's own came face to face with a medical emergency on the football field. Buffalo Bills safety Demar Hamlin collapsed to the field in Cincinnati on Monday Night Football, needing CPR and the use of an AED to restart his heartbeat after going into cardiac arrest. The McKees Rocks native and Central Catholic graduate spent several days in the hospital in critical condition before being discharged. Hamlin's road to recovery was long, but last month he took his first defensive snap with the Bills and even made a tackle in that game.
A train derailment in February just across Pennsylvania's state line into Ohio would make national headlines as the fiery crash involving toxic chemicals threatened the East Palestine community and raised new questions about rail safety. Orange flames lit up the night sky after the Norfolk Southern train derailed in the village with a population of just under 5,000.
If you have to come to East Palestine, don't.
Residents, if you have not evacuated, please leave the area.
And the fire burning for days before a controlled release of the toxic chemicals was deemed successful. Numerous lawsuits have been filed against Norfolk Southern by local school districts over the health concerns related to that derailment. The results of the NTSB investigation into the cause has yet to be released.
McKeesport became the second community in our area this year to suffer the loss of a police officer when Shan Slansky was shot and killed in February. Officer Slansky was responding to a domestic call when it happened. At his funeral, he was remembered with laughs, smiles, fond memories, and tears. But most of all, he was remembered as a hero.
It's heartbreaking. I'm heartbroken, and I really don't have much to say other than Slug was a great man. You raised a wonderful son. He loved you, Chelsea. He raved about you all the time.
Following the mass, a procession carried his body through the city he served, where some waved American flags, others had signs offering thanks, a chance for the community to begin healing.
In March, 2 schools in the heart of Pittsburgh became the target of a series of hoax phone calls about active shooters, prompting lockdowns and a massive police presence in the city. Law enforcement swarmed the area of the city where Oakland Catholic and Central Catholic are located. Both schools were evacuated and cleared of any active shooters, with the calls appearing to be computer-generated swatting calls.
We have technical tools. We have analysts that work, around the clock every day to do just that, to grab the pieces of intelligence and evidence that comes from a lot of these calls across the nation.
Less than 2 weeks later, Pitt's campus became the center of a similar scenario at the Hillman Library, sparking panic and raising questions about the university's emergency alert system and how officials use it. The reports turned out to be unfounded, and the FBI says it's an around-the-clock job working to combat hoax swatting calls.
A fire breaking out in the abandoned Century 3 Mall in West Mifflin in April became the first in several chapters of what seemed like a never-ending saga surrounding what was once the third biggest mall in the world. The fire was investigated as an arson, and borough leaders eventually voted to condemn the building, citing safety concerns.
We're saying the building is uninhabitable right now.
In the months following the fire, several social media influencers and YouTubers were charged with trespassing. A teenager even fell through the roof of the mall while filming a TikTok. The owners of the mall have been fined several hundreds of thousands of dollars for various code and ordinance violations, but the mall still sits condemned and unoccupied.
It was a busy summer in Pittsburgh for summer concerts, with artists like Luke Combs, Ed Sheeran, and Morgan Wallen packing fans in for their shows. But no one did it as big in the Steel City this year as Taylor Swift. The international pop star broke records in June with her Eras Tour, setting a new attendance record at Acrisure Stadium with more than 73,000 fans in attendance for her Saturday night show. Her concerts made a lot of people happy, including a 10-year-old girl from Jeanette, who walked out of the show with something any fan would want.
I was like, oh my gosh, I just got Taylor Swift's hat.
The Eras Tour also made a massive financial impact on the city and was followed by a movie about the tour that hit theaters soon thereafter.
For several days in June, air quality would be the talk of the town here in the Pittsburgh area. Smoke from Canadian wildfires made its way to the East Coast, prompting health concerns in western Pennsylvania. After code red alerts surrounding the unhealthy air were issued by the DEP, concerts and events were moved indoors, delayed, and even postponed. The smoke blanketed the Pittsburgh area, creating hazy skies and a smell in some areas. Those conditions would dissipate after several days.
Nearly 5 years after Robert Bauer shot and killed 11 worshipers inside the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill, this summer the gunman stood trial and was convicted of all charges in the case, later sentenced to die for his crimes. The 37-day trial ended with the jury finding the gunman guilty of all 63 federal charges in the shooting that was the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history.
He killed half of the people in that building. He murdered them because they were Jewish.
After deliberating for 10 hours over 2 days, the jury recommended the death penalty. Bowers is now being held on death row in Terre Haute, Indiana.
A quiet August Saturday morning in Plum Borough brought a community to its knees when a home exploded in the Rustic Ridge neighborhood, destroying numerous nearby houses and damaging dozens of others. Casey and Keegan Klontz, Heather and Paul Orovitz, Kevin Sabunia, and Michael Thomas were all killed in the blast. Multiple other people were critically injured, and dozens of firefighters were treated for minor injuries. A prayer service and numerous fundraisers to support the community were held in the wake of the blast.
It's about coming together to help, and that's it. And this community has responded amazingly. They're fantastic, unbelievable.
The investigation into the explosion is expected to take months, if not years.
An eviction notice in August turned into a deadly hours-long standoff and shootout with police in Pittsburgh's Garfield neighborhood. It all started when sheriff's deputies tried to serve a notice, and gunfire came from the home from shooter William Hardison. Deputies returned fire, followed by a massive response with officers from numerous agencies.
It was about a little over 4.5 hours, and in that we've provided ample opportunity for peaceful surrender.
We certainly didn't expect this. Certainly there's factors that go into these types of things we do. We evaluate, we respond accordingly, but we certainly had no information whatsoever that this individual was this dangerous or that there were firearms in the house.
SWAT officers found Hardison in the home after more gunfire was exchanged, and Hardison was pronounced dead a short time later. State police were put in charge of the investigation and will be sending a report to the DA's office for review.
A violent crash in September left a school community devastated and demanding change. The crash happened along Richland Avenue in Dravosburg and involved a Sarah Catholic High School van. That van was hit by another vehicle, and 15-year-old student Samantha Kalkbrenner was killed.
She was a beautiful young woman who always had a smile on her face and kind words for everyone.
3 other students were hurt. In the months following the crash, several steps have been taken to improve safety along the road, including making left turns illegal there. A traffic light will be installed near where that crash happened.
Kind of breaks up that stretch of roads that people will have to slow down for the traffic light.
It's expected to be operational by springtime. 2 men have been arrested and charged in connection to the crash.
2 hotly contested November elections came down to the wire this year in Allegheny County, with 2 candidates for different offices making history, each in their own way. Sarah Innamorato defeated Joe Rockey to win the race for county executive. She'll be the youngest person and first woman to hold the office and will oversee the county budget of more than $3 billion.
Thank you, Allegheny County! I stand here tonight in awe of the trust that you've placed in me, and I am confident that together we can build an Allegheny County for us all.
In the county district attorney's race, incumbent Stephen Zappala defeated challenger Matt Dugan. Zappala was elected to his record 7th term in a race that focused heavily on public safety and crime.
The voters of Allegheny County have given me the honor of serving a 7th term as the district attorney of this county.
The race made headlines when Zappala was defeated by Dugan in the primary, only to run as a Republican and then win the general election.
Elections weren't the only fireworks in November, though, with the Steelers making a historic mid-season coaching change. After the Steelers' Week 11 loss to the Cleveland Browns and the team sputtering through the first half of the year, offensive coordinator Matt Canada was fired. While in charge of the offense, the team failed to reach 400 yards for 58 straight games, the second longest such streak in NFL history. In the team's first game without Canada running the offense, the team beat the Bengals, crossing the 400-yard mark for the first time since 2020.
This was indeed a year full of breaking news, headlines, and big stories. Here's to 2024 and the coming year ahead.
Two men have been arrested and charged in connection to the crash.